Bada bing, bada boom. Realest guys in the room. It's the Below Average Joes. And we're back. We're back in here with your weekend preview. Guaranteed to be a banger. There is 3 different cards we're going over here, Dom. PFL Week 5. You got the heavyweights, the featherweights. Bellator 282. You got Gegard Mousasi defending the middleweight title against Johnny Eblen. And last but not least, you have UFC Vegas 57.
Yes, Noah.
Look, I didn't look how excited I am. Look how prepared I came this time. I didn't just say Vegas and blah blah blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I mean, did I pull it out of my ass to get that one right? Maybe. But 57, headlined by an exceptional main event between 2 of the most promising young talents in that talent-stacked UFC lightweight division, along with a lot of other fights across all these cards. I'm excited to talk about this. It's been a while since we've had 3 different promotions all putting on cards in the same weekend. I wish we saw more of this. I wish the PFL and Bellator would capitalize more often when the UFC is, either taking a little break, taking a week off. But regardless, we're here. We're getting all 3 the same weekend. I'm excited, Dominic. How are you feeling now that I guess when you guys are watching this, we're a day out from our first 2, PFL and Bellator, Friday.
Yes, this is true. I'm super excited, man, to have the big 3 in the MMA space, especially here domestically, back in action. I'm excited. Bellator, PFL, UFC, great fights all across the board. Over, I think, nearly 40 total fights across all 3 cards as well. Nice. So we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to discuss. We've got a lot to break down and give you guys the nitty-gritty. Let's go.
But first,
let me take a selfie. Remember that song?
Actually, I think you just unlocked something in my brain that I don't.
The whole song is now playing.
Yeah. What we really need to do is plug our social media, Dominic, because we would love you guys to come follow us over there. Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok at BAJ_MMA podcast. Yes. If you want me to repeat that, I'm not going to. Just go to YouTube and look above Dominic's head.
Yes.
Also, you can follow us on our personal Instagram and Twitters. Dominic is at Diesely14. And me, I'm at NTBaker_.
Yes.
Seriously, guys, go support the TikTok. Dominic's been working hard.
That's fun.
Getting that off the ground. That's our newest little endeavor. Just just more content, right?
Yeah, something extra,
Something to flesh out the, kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Like, you wake up after like a tough workout, or like for us after like a tough high school football game, and you're all sore, but it like feels good. You just want to like shake out the lactic acids,
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what the TikTok's really for. It's like a palate cleanser on those days off where we're not really doing an episode. But guys, this is a 24/7 job for us.
Damn right. It's a passion. It's a love.
So I would love for you guys to just show a little bit of support, because Dominic's working hard over there. So more support, the better. Yes. Now let's get into the main event, Dominic, unless you have anything you'd like to say.
I've been waiting on it.
Back to the Apex we go in Las Vegas, Nevada. Arman Tsarukyan comes in at a -280 favorite. He's the number 11 ranked lightweight contender in the world. And he takes on the man right behind him, number 12, Mateusz Gamrot at +235. Dominic, one of the biggest videos we've had as of late, one of the most supported videos we've had as of late, was our clip talking about why this main event was so deserving of that. That was from our last verbal sparring. Yep. So go check that out if you haven't yet. After this, of course.
Yes.
But in there, Dominic, we had a lot to say about this being the main event, because there was, at the time, there was a lot of chatter on the other side. People, I don't want to target our good pal.
Our boy. I'm blanking his name. I'm like, my boy, and I can't.
We literally. Oh my gosh.
There's so many reporters, guys.
I know, and we like this guy too. It's such a shame. Basically, he had put a tweet out there when this was announced as the main event, saying, "Is this the worst main event in UFC history, not because he didn't like the fight, but saying due to
Name
the
value.
relative name value, it's not what the views are going to be like on it, whatever. We argued against that point. Felt like we were kind of the defenders of this fight at the time. Like, it felt like, there wasn't really a strong, like, he rightfully maybe too much got some shit for that.
Yeah.
But I felt like there were a lot of people who sort of felt similar, and that we needed a strong voice, which is what we were trying to do, to be kind of the positive beacon of this fight.
Yep.
And Dominic, I'm not going to credit our video as being what turned the tide, but I feel like as we sit here today, just a couple days away from fight night, this main event, I feel like a lot of people are looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are showing love for it. And hopefully this is a sign of things to come with the main event matchmaking. A fight that truly is just giving us everything we need to know about these two guys right now will be answered on Saturday. And that was a long-winded start to this conversation, but my question for you, when you look at this fight, mano a mano, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, what questions on either side or both sides are you looking to see answered Saturday?
I mean, the question for both guys that they have to answer, if you want to start with a mutual one, is just like, ready or not, here you go. You're in the main event. Both of these guys, the first time ever. You've proven that ever since both of their debuts, they've went on tears. Arman's won 5 in a row. Mateusz has won 3 in a row. Now you're paired with each other, a top 15 chance here to break in even to the top 10, which I believe is definitely in the cards as a result of this fight. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to jump into, dare I say, the elite status of the lightweights? Because let's face it, this division is very elite, number 1 through 10 plus. Well, I guess we don't have a champion, but let's be honest, Charles Oliveira. So
the champion has a name.
Damn right. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. The storylines here, there's so many, and it is like that overwhelming one, the cloud surrounding it. Are you ready to jump into the deep end? And, sometimes we don't like when these prospects are paired with one another, but this one just feels so right. We've seen them face veterans. We've seen them face other young up-and-comers. Just look at Tsarukyan, especially his last fight. He destroyed Joel Alvarez. Gamrot destroyed a veteran in Diego Ferreira. Two opposite spectrums, but now they still meet here for a reason. These guys deserve every bit of a main event spot. And, honestly, the winner goes on to main event many, many more fight cards, in my opinion. And the loser, still not even far out. I believe that this fight could even happen a second time down the line. The future is now. That's what this fight is.
These guys have a combined professional MMA record of 38-3 and 1.
Yeah.
Also, combined UFC record of 8-2. So neither guy has actually come in here unscathed in their MMA or UFC careers, probably more importantly. But both have looked incredible up to this point. They've really been on great runs. I think, though, it's got to be a talking point that Tsarukyan being such a heavy favorite. I mean, minus 280.
Yeah.
Pretty heavy for a guy. We feel like this fight's so competitive on paper. So when I look at that, I think, Dominic, the reason for those odds being so skewed to him, even if I think it might be a little too much, is the fact that I think the talent Tsarukyan's been fighting has been a lot of matchups like this.
Yeah.
He's been getting tested against guys that are just as hungry, just as much have a youthful vigor about him as he is, which is not easy. I mean, going up against his one loss in UFC, Islam Makhachev, in what was a pretty competitive fight.
Yeah.
He has wins over Olivier Aubin Mercier, who's doing great things in the PFL, Matt Frivola, who's really bounced back after a couple tough losses, coming off of that destruction of Joel Alvarez.
Didn't see that coming for me.
Joel Alvarez had looked like maybe he would be the guy in this kind of position. And Tsarukyan put up one of the best performances of the year against him, an absolute bloody beatdown.
Yes.
Mateusz Gamrot's looked fantastic, but it's again against more of that aging out talent. Jeremy Stevens and Diego Ferreira, like you mentioned. Scott Holtzman, also another win on there. His lone loss was his debut in the UFC, and that was against a guy who just fought last week. Another guy that you could have in this very much talent stacked 155 kind of crop of fresh faces. Garam Kutateladze.
Yes.
I think it was a split decision.
Yeah, that he arguably won. Yeah.
Memory serves me right. Mateusz Gamrot again, very competitive fight, but that was really his lone fight against someone who sort of shared a lot of similar attributes. If you want to go off of kind of the youth, the athleticism, the speed, the power. When you're going up against these guys like Jeremy Stephens, Diego Ferreira, it does say a lot to beat them because they do have such a advantage in terms of fight IQ, in terms of just their experience level, the kind of names they fought before.
Yeah.
But they're also just much older in the game, a little more worn out, a little bit battle worn. Their better days are behind them. So I think that's what's led to the discrepancy in terms of the betting odds, Dom. But I'm curious, when you evaluate this fight, do you think this accurately depicts kind of the fight we're going to get? Or do you think Mateusz Gamrot might be just that real deal?
Yeah, man, that's so hard because you look at odds like this, you're like, holy shit, it's not even going to be close. That's what when it's a minus 280, that's a lot of the time what you would think. There's a couple of those on the card that we'll talk about later for the betting, but in this one, I can't help but think, part of me thinks it's going to be this just really technical, just beautiful battle, potentially even go 5 rounds. Another question to be answered from both these guys as well when Noah's bringing up kind of storylines in this fight. But then there's another part of me that thinks the winner of this is just going to starch the other guy. I don't know which side to lean more toward, man, but again, the odds don't say it's going to be close. So, yeah, I don't know. Tsarukyan is just much younger, right? 25 to 31. Gamrot, yes, a prospect still surging through. But Tsarukyan literally, in terms of the youth, is kind of embraces that prospect title even much more so. And I think it is kind of what you said. He's beating the younger guys that are kind of held in the same regard. I mean, again, like I said, I didn't think he was going to – I actually picked Joel Alvarez to win that fight. And then Tsarukyan not only beat him, he beat him into a bloody pulp. It was disgusting. So, I don't know, man. I feel like – the odds are in Tsarukyan's favor because of performances like that. But when you look at Gamrot, yes, it is against older guys. All 3 wins in the UFC are via finish, though, and a lot of them are relatively brutal, like in dominant fashion as well. So I just this fight, I don't know which way to lean. How's it going to play out? I don't know. I mean, the odds are scary.
Is it easy to say that Diego Ferreira is the best win of both of their careers, or combined? If you combine them. I mean, Diego Ferreira was a top 15 fighter. Arman Tsarukyan, I don't believe, has...
I would say so.
None of his wins have been against... I mean, Joel Alvarez may have been ranked when they fought, but I don't think he was.
Yeah, I feel like the winner of that got in.
Yeah, so you're right. Tsarukyan has yet to beat a ranked opponent, and yet he's number 11. And I think that's deservedly so.
Yeah.
It's just always a little strange when someone gets that far up in the rankings without actually defeating a ranked fighter. But I think it's just been a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
A lot of guys leaving, a lot of guys coming in. Mateusz Gamrot, Diego Ferreira clearly was a ranked fighter at the time. Not too far before that, a top 10 fighter in the division.
Yeah.
Obviously, spell of bad luck. COVID may have gotten in the way of kind of really seeing what he could do at maybe his absolute best. He had that great win against Anthony Pettis, and then it spent like a year on the shelf.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but I definitely think this is a more competitive bout than the odds tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I still lean towards Tsarukyan, and you'll see that later when we get into some of the betting side, but the odds are so skewed that it's hard not to put a little bit on Mateusz Gamrot. If you don't feel strongly enough about either guy, or of course if you lean very heavily to Gamrot, of course, but if you just are kind of 50-50, think this fight can go either way, how do you not put money on Gamrot? At plus 235, you may never get him at those kind of odds ever again in his career.
Yeah.
What I would say, Dominic, is when I look at this fight and what I think the matchup's going to be is who's wrestling, who's grappling is going to take over here.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know, because part of me, if you had asked me about this matchup maybe 6 months ago, maybe even a little bit before that, I may have told you that I thought Gamrot might get the better of the grappling exchanges, might be the better wrestler of the two,
Yeah.
better pure grappler of the two. But the way Tsarukyan is just sort of, it's not just how he grapples, but it's the ground and pound he puts together with
He doesn't
it.
just lay, dude.
There's no wasted
kill.
movement. No wasted movement at all. And that's what you were about to allude to is he goes for the kill.
Yeah.
You saw that no clearer than in his last few performances, like we mentioned, Joel Alvarez. But even before that, Christos Giagos, he did that on the feet, I think, for the whole fight.
Yep.
So showing the improvements in the striking. I think we've seen in his wins Tsarukyan show a more developed game as well. We've seen just a little bit more of him. While Mateusz Gamrot, excellent submissions, excellent ground game. It's going to be a test. That's really, we're really going to have a lot answered about not just the state of where these guys are, but I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways as far as, okay, the winner of this fight, they might be a rocket strapped to their ass, and they might be heading right for the title picture here soon.
Yeah, that old wave in this lightweight division, they have to leave. We've seen them start trickling out a little bit at a time, right? We've seen even Gamrot take out one of them, like Noah already said. But yeah, the winner of this, I do agree, will be launched into the elite status.
All right, more on this fight to come. Let's talk about the co-main event for this card.
Oh, my goodness.
There could be a debate. As much as we love the main event and as much as we supported it, Dom, I do think there's a debate to be had on if this fight might not be the true main event of the card in some ways.
Yeah.
Because on one end, you got Neil Magny, still ranked number 10 at welterweight. He is looking to break George St. Pierre's welterweight record for wins. But Dominic, he's not being given a gimme fight to do it. In order to do so, he would have to be the first man to defeat Shavkat Rakhmonov. For those of you that aren't aware of Shavkat Rakhmonov, you need to educate yourselves now.
Yeah, you got a couple days to catch up.
Because think of what we all know about Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah, this guy's probably going to be fighting Khamzat for here soon. Yeah. And honestly, you might as well, look, I know maybe some people aren't as sold on Khamzat as they were before the Gilbert Burns fight, but I think me and you both are. We're still very high on him.
Yes.
Shavkat Rakhmonov might be better now.
He really might be. Much more well-rounded,
yeah,
I would think.
That's, well, you might be right. I mean, it's hard for me to go out on a limb and say it, but I definitely see the argument for it. He's 15-0, 3-0 in the UFC. All three of his wins via finish, 2 submissions, 1 KO. The KO over Carlston Harris with the spinning wheel kick.
Yeah.
Carlston Harris, a solid opponent, by the way. Not a guy that you should be sleeping on either. And then even before that, his debut, Dominic, against a fighter who is now no longer in the company, but Cowboy Oliveira is your debut.
Yeah.
And you get the submission victory over him. I know Cowboy Oliveira, at his worst, he is a guy that he gets put on a lot of highlight reels.
Yeah.
But
that's a tough debut for anyone.
That is not an easy debut.
No.
Nowhere near an easy debut at all. And he made it look easy. That's just the truth of the matter. And really, for Neil Magny, Dom,
respect for taking a fight like this.
Should we give him a round of applause? Just a little clap.
The guy says, "I'll take on Khamzat at the UFC. Best I can give you is Shavkat Rakhmonov." You know what I'm saying?
I respect so much that this guy he wants to smoke. He wants to fire. He wants to jump in the fire.
Yes.
He called for Khamzat for so long, it just seemed to slip out of his fingertips a couple times. But then even after his win at Columbus, UFC Columbus against Max Griffin,
sick fight.
He called again for Khamzat. Yep. But you knew Khamzat, if he beat Gilbert Burns, it might just be a step too far away at this point.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with the decision maybe to not do that fight because I don't know if it really needs to happen.
Not right now. Yeah.
But the UFC said, well, we got this other guy.
Exactly. Oh.
And, I have full respect for Neil Magny for taking this fight because, Dominic, I think the UFC is going to have a really hard time. If Shavkat Rakhmonov comes in here and does to Neil Magny even a fraction of what he was able to do to the likes of Carlston Harris, Michel Prazeres, and Alex Oliveira, the UFC is going to have to beg and plead the top 10 of this division to take a fight with this guy, because he's a bit like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison for Shavkat here, like an animal, he's a bit of a snake, and I'm gonna So this is kind of, doesn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
You know, like what like a rattlesnake? What's a poisonous snake? Like a rattlesnake or an animal? Yeah. Is that a
rattlesnakes? They rattle. They rattle in their ass.
Yes, I didn't need the.
Okay. I just figured, just in case.
Yeah. But thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I think a rattlesnake's poisonous. I don't know, guys.
It is, yes. Deadly.
I don't know. Anyways, he's a bit of a rattlesnakes make noise. My point is, he's a poisonous ass snake that doesn't make a lot of noise.
Okay.
He's not someone that a lot of people, you know, if you go to the casual fans, they all know who Khamzat is at this point.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of guys know who Shavkat Rakhmonov is. I think the hardcore fans are well aware of how dangerous and the potential that he holds. But I think he's a bit of like our guy right now. Like he's our little secret.
Yes.
And I don't know if he'll be after this fight.
No.
I mean, Neil Magny is in the co-main event of this card. That's a stage that could be, you know, it's the brightest it'll be for him at this point and could really open a lot of people's eyes. But to finish off my analogy here about the whole snake thing is that the reason why none of these fighters are going to want to fight him is because he doesn't make a lot of noise. He's not someone that's on that you're, you know, very aware of in terms of the top of this division. But man, you get into an arena with him, you get into a cage with him, you find yourself facing off with that snake.
Yeah.
One bite and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a deadly. He's a sniper, dare I say.
Maybe not my best analogy, but
it was good.
I tried my best. And
it was our first time talking about snakes on the show. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's really the truth of the matter here with Shavkat Rakhmonov is, as much as I respect Neil Magny for taking this fight, it's hard to side with him here, in my opinion. Even though 19-7 in the UFC. I mean, this guy, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights.
He's always been slept on forever.
Yeah, the only loss he has in that run has been Michael Chiesa, which was the beginning of 2021, I believe.
Yeah, main event.
Fight Island. So outside of that, he's been great. I mean, he's really been on a good run. Wins over Jeff Neal, Robbie Lawler, Max Griffin, like we just mentioned. Along with, obviously, he has bigger names even if you go further back. But for me, Dominic, I will say at UFC Columbus, did it not feel like maybe Neil Magny was just losing a little step, like a half step?
A little bit.
Like maybe he would have more easily defeated Max Griffin just a couple years earlier. Did it feel like that to you?
It did a little bit. You know, credit a little bit to Max Griffin as well. He kind of took Magny out of his wheelhouse. Magny's one that likes to, you know, grind you up against that fence and really does a lot of work in the clinch. But he finally did utilize his reach. Noah and I have always talked about Neil Magny always having a reach advantage, but never utilizing it because he likes to clinch and grapple so much. In that fight, he was kind of forced to use it, and he did all right. He looked a little bit slower. It was a split decision, very close fight, could have went either way. So I think like to have that and then to go right into Shavkat 3 months later, less than 3 months, it's a huge jump. And, you know, I love Noah's analogy when comparing Rakhmonov to Khamzat because at 3 fights, everybody knew who Khamzat was, right? He was taking fights. He fought twice in 10 days or whatever the hell it was. Well, Shavkat's also 3-0 in the UFC. Also has 3 amazing finishes, including the spinning wheel kick. But you don't hear about him because he's very quiet, a silent assassin. Shout out to Vicente Luque. I think that's his nickname. But Shavkat, dude, it says a lot for anyone to beat Neil Magny. But if he does go in here and gets a finish, ladies and gentlemen, Shavkat has 15 wins, 15 finishes, just in case you didn't know, by the way. It not only just says how good he is, but just like we talked about a rocket ship in the main event. Strap another rocket ship right on here to Shavkat's ass if he's going to go finish Neil Magny. Like, this is a big coming out party for young prospects in the future of the UFC, and it's here in the co-main event too.
Yeah. Neil Magny, by the way, 18 decisions in his career, 15 of those in the UFC. So 15 decisions in 26 bouts. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 0 decisions. That's really where I am most invested in this fight, Dominic. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov should win this fight.
Yeah.
It's a big test. It's a great matchup, I think. But to me, it's how's he going to get it done? And obviously, that's not to overlook Neil Magny here, because in my opinion, if Shavkat Rakhmonov is not finishing this fight, if he's not knocking out Neil Magny, if he's not submitting Neil Magny, which obviously is not easy to do, when this fight gets into the later parts of round 2 and round 3, does Rakhmonov still look the same? Does he still carry himself in that well-rounded skill set? Is there any chinks in the armor late? Because Neil Magny will find them. If there are.
Well, you said he's never obviously been to a decision. No, he's only even been to a third round just once.
Wow, that's
Neil Magny lives in the third round.
This is where that's why I'm kind of hoping. Not that I would hope for Neil Magny to get finished early, but obviously you fans of the sport, you love to see quick finishes and stuff like that.
Of course.
But I'm hoping this fight sees the third round.
I want it all to be brought out of Shavkat.
I want to see Neil Magny start to try to wear on Shavkat, and I want to see how he responds.
100%.
That's what we need to get answered about this guy now, because if it doesn't get answered here, if he starches him, I mean, how can you not do the same thing we did with Hamzat?
Exactly.
It's like, shoot him up to the top.
And then we find out the dog in him.
Then you find out what Hamzat's capable of and what maybe he's lacking in against Gilbert Burns. But until then, Shavkat may be the second pound-for-pound best fighter in this division right now.
Yeah.
Just in terms of pure skill, and we just have no idea yet. That's really how I feel. That's how highly I kind of view his upside.
And we really will find out in this matchup. We will.
Yeah. Neil Magny, 18 decisions, man. That man goes. He makes more decisions than
a judge.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say to Judge Judy.
Anyways.
Put a little clip of Judge Judy in there. Boop. All right.
What were the children doing on the roof? I've lived in houses my whole life. I have 5 children. I have 13 grandchildren. I never saw them on the roof.
And moving on. Because more from this card to come later in the betting portion. But we do want to talk about Bellator 282.
It's been a while since we talked about Bellator.
Last time was 281, Pitbull McKee 2. There's no way. Was that 281?
I think so. Long time. It's been over a month since they've had an event.
Oh, I think it's been longer than that.
Month and a half.
It's got to be April, right?
Yeah. Wow. It's true. That's when it was.
You felt it too. For all the crap that we give Bellator and that a lot of people do, and rightfully so, you felt their presence missing over this time. The UFC.
There were opportunities for them to have cards, and they don't.
The last few weeks, the UFC have been killing it. Obviously, UFC 275, and then the Austin fight night was amazing. But just a month ago, Don, we had a string of fight nights that were
not great.
Not great.
Yeah,
and I would have loved to have had
and that was without the PFL or Bellator. That was without both of them.
It was tough, but we're back now. It's our only title being defended across all 3 shows here. Bellator middleweight title on the line. Gegard Mousasi, Dom, takes on the number 1 contender, Johnny Eblen. Big discrepancy if you want to go into the experience of these two. Kind of the story of, his last fight for sure against Austin Vanderford for Gegard. It's a bit of... A lot of people are comparing the 2 matchups because Johnny Eblen, I believe, is 12-0 or 11-0.
Yep.
I believe Austin Vanderford was like 10-0, 11-0. Both guys pride themselves on being these great wrestlers, great grapplers. And you saw what Gegard Mousasi did to Mr. Van Zandt, Austin Vanderford. Yep. Put him out in under a minute. Will Johnny Eblen face the same fate? Well, you got to tune in to find out. But we will tell you our thoughts right now. I don't think he faces the same fate as Austin Vanderford.
And tell me why.
Not the same style of loss. And I know that's, is that really saying much? Well, I think he's going to make it out the first minute.
Yeah,
Wow. Analysis, baby.
That's right.
No, I do think Johnny Eblen, I think on this win streak, his win over John Salter, who also fought Gegard Mousasi not too long ago, was very dominant.
Yep.
And it to me, he looked very polished in his wrestling. His wrestling looked very solid. Now, if this fight is on the feet, I don't have too much confidence in Johnny Eblen to make it a fight, really. I think Gegard is just too talented there. And really, even in the wrestling department, I know that's where people seem to think that Gegard could, have his faltering moment or his downside. He's rock solid everywhere, man. I mean, it's not easy.
He's so good.
And here, Joe, Johnny Eblen comes from a great line of wrestlers out there at the University of Missouri. Guys like Michael Chandler, Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren came through there. So I do think that Johnny Eblen and his corner, by the way, I was talking to Dom about this off recording. I mean, you're talking King Mo, Dustin Poirier, Mike Brown. I mean, that's a who's who all-star lineup for your corner. And not that Gegard obviously has a rock-solid corner as well, but these are some factors that just kind of make me think. I feel like Johnny Eblen is going to get unfairly compared to Austin Vanderford due to those surface-level similarities, the records being very similar. Both of their plans of attack involve wrestling. But it really, when you go beyond that, I just think that Johnny Eblen just has a lot more to show for it up to this point. I think he's proven to be better in Bellator. Like, the wins are more convincing. However, it's still a tough, tall task to take on Gegard Mousasi. I mean, only 12-0 in your MMA career, and you're taking on a guy who has 5 times, 4 times.
Literally over 5 times. Yeah.
It's just, it's an uphill battle.
And that's what all of these fights have been lately for Gegard Mousasi. He is just chewing up and spitting out these guys that just don't have the experience. And dude, like, how many people across all promotions are going to have the experience that Gegard Mousasi does? Not many.
Well,
especially these guys.
It's kind of weird how his run has kind of gone, because it feels like he kind of took out the toughest matchups like early on. Douglas Lima, Rory McDonald.
Right.
Both undersized compared to him, which was kind of the I guess anybody who's still kind of holding out that Gegard's like a top middleweight. I think that's like the shade that gets thrown on those fights is how undersized Rory and Douglas were in them. So now he's going up against guys more his size, but the discrepancy in the experience is just insurmountable in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know how I'm feeling. I'm leaning towards Gegard pretty huge here, but I do think that Eblen, I could see him making this. Like, I could see him getting to a decision. I could. Yeah. I don't think it'd be a very close to like a 49-46, type decision.
Yeah.
I could see him getting a takedown and holding it for the majority of a round.
He's a grinder,
Yeah, he is. But I just overall, you got to side with the proven commodity, the guy who's been there, done that, who's proven to be dangerous and just talented everywhere, and doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Dominic, did anything I just say, do you disagree with, or are we all basically on the same page here?
No, I feel like we're on the same page, and I just feel like every time at this point that we're talking about Gegard, which we talk about him a lot, he's staying really active. It's just a broken record because he's fighting these younger guys that are great wrestlers, or they're just one-dimensional, right? But then you look at Gegard, 28 knockouts, 12 submissions. He's been doing this shit since we were in diapers, I feel like, Noah. And it's just like, there's nothing, and again, it's fighting. Anything can happen. But on paper, when you look at these guys, it's just like there's nothing that they can do that Gegard has not already seen, man. He's been in Strikeforce. He's been in the UFC. He's been in Bellator. He's winning championships left and right. It's tough for any of these young guys. But if they were to do it, that's a fucking statement. You know what I mean? So it's an uphill battle. It is for all these guys right now at this weight class, because Gegard just is like making laps at this point. But if someone can do it, I think it does say a lot for that kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say a passing of the torch. Gegard's only 36, and he still looks like he's getting better and better. But it would feel that way at the same time, a little bit.
It's kind of miraculous, though, that Gegard is still fighting at this level because, yes, 36 years old, that's by no means like the end of your career at 185 pounds. But Dominic, the fight years.
Yep,
I mean,
talk about it a lot. Yep.
You know, and when you look at it, I guess it's not, how much damage has he really accumulated? It's not like he's been finished that many times throughout his career. So that probably has played a big part in him being able to maintain longevity.
Yeah.
And I would say, I guess that to go hand in hand with that, maybe he also is just I'm assuming he's also just super focused, just always in a fight camp, basically.
Oh yeah.
It's a full-time job for him, I'm sure. So, I'll be interested to see, like, if he wins here. Like, I'll be curious what we have to say come Monday, because you're kind of running out of. We're running out of guys here.
Yeah, and guys to fight him. Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm. More on this card to come a little bit later as well. We got one more, Dom, and that's the PFL Week 5. First one that'll be airing. I believe actually Bellator's prelims may start earlier, but
it's competition that night.
Yeah. PFL Week 5 coming to you on Friday from on ESPN Plus. Excuse me. Heavyweights and featherweights, Dominic. I'm going to run through the standings real quick.
Go
what
ahead.
we have coming in here. So at heavyweight, Renan Ferreira, number 1 with 6 points. Tied for first, Denis Goltsov also with 6 points. I believe Bruno Capoloza has 5, and then I think Ante D'Elia has 4. That's a pretty solid top 4 right there, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Renan Ferreira has been kind of the big standout so far for me. He's the guy that had that weird fight with Fabricio Verdum last season where he probably tapped, but then the ref didn't see us, and then he just knocked out Fabricio Verdum. But he's been back in a big way. That first-round knockout he had in his first matchup was spectacular.
He broke his own record for the fastest knockout.
And he looks – I mean, he's terrifying.
He looks like a tight end, an NFL tight end.
He's literally he's Brazilian, I think, right? Yeah, Renan Ferreira. He's Brazilian Rob Gronkowski.
He is 6'8".
Yeah. That's unreal.
It's Brazilian Stefan Struve. That's what we're looking at here.
And then you got last season's winner. The last 2 seasons' winners, I believe. Bruno Capoloza, I believe, is back-to-back, right? Wasn't he
just last year. Just last year.
It was just last year? Okay. But Bruno Capoloza ran through all the competition last year.
Destroyed him, yeah.
However, in the championship, Ante D'Elia and him had one of the best fights of the year, the best fight the PFL put on all year.
Yes.
And all 3 of those guys in the top 4. And then you got Denis Goltsov, who also had a first-round finish. So, very competitive there in the top 4. All finishes there. All guys looking to hold on for dear life here in round 2 because – again, Dom, when 6 points, first round finish, I mean, it swings. That can, I wouldn't surprise me if all 4 of these guys, just doubled down, got wins, and held their spots, maybe just moved around a little bit. But it also wouldn't surprise me if, one of these guys wins and still doesn't get in, as crazy as that is to say.
Oh, yeah.
Now, featherweight is a whole different story. This is the division that you have to be most interested in watching on this card specifically because we have a 5-way tie.
It's crazy.
Literally every fight in that featherweight division went to a decision, Dom. So you have 5 winners, all with 3 points. Brendan Loughnane listed as number 5, the guy on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
The guy with maybe the most to prove here.
Yes.
But also you got Shaman Moraes, Alejandro Flores, Chris Wade, and Bubba Jenkins also in that top 5. So, a lot at stake here, obviously. This is where the playoff matchups get made. What fights are kind of standing out to you, or what fighters are standing out to you on this card that you are looking forward to watching? looking to see how they either maybe bounce back from a previous loss or maybe rise to the occasion. What is it that you're watching out for at PFL 5?
Dude, dare I say, I'm still looking out for a two-time champion, I believe two-time, but definitely one-time, Lance Palmer on that very much outside looking in because he lost that first fight against Chris Wade, so now he's
3-fight losing streak.
3-fight losing streak from the former champ in the PFL. Outside looking in, Noah, if you're Lance Palmer, you have to come in and get a finish. You have to come in and get a first-round finish because if all 5 of these dudes just win another decision, you're out. Because they're going to have 6 points.
And he's also gotten a lot of criticism for his lack of being able to do that. He doesn't tend to get a lot of finishes. So
tons of
God, you got the pressure is on him because he won the first 2 seasons, I believe. He won back to back.
18,
and then
19.
Since then, it's just been. I mean, we talked about this last season. Did the division catch up? Is he aging out? What is it? And man, 3 losses in a row, like one more, and you got to think it's one of the two. Either the talent's caught up or he's just aging out. It's names like Brent. When you have guys like Bubba Jenkins, who's looked really good at times, and Brendan Loughnane, who seems just poised to break out at some point. I mean, the fans are behind this guy. This is the guy who was kind of controversially not given a contract on the Contender Series, probably one of the bigger snubs, if you want to call it that, from the time. And Dana kind of doubled down when asked about him and said, one of these other promotions can prove it if he's that guy. Go show me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So far, has he been proven wrong? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I think Loughnane's been very good. I think he's been a solid guy here in the PFL, but by no means has he proven that he should be in the UFC necessarily. I think he's got the talent to do so. I think he's got the upside to do so. He just has to go show it. He opens this card, which kind of disrespectful a little bit. Maybe showing that maybe the PFL maybe not that committed to him as being a face of their promotion. I don't necessarily think that's what it means, but you got to think a guy like that should be fighting on a main card for sure. And to be opening the curtain jerker, it's got to be a bit disappointing. So I'm definitely looking out for him.
Dare I say the most pressure out of any fighter on the card is in Brendan on this night. And there's a lot of pressure on a lot of these fighters, man. You know what I mean? But when you look at all those factors you talked about, Brendan's got to be up there.
You know who has zero pressure on them?
Who's that?
Anthony Pettis, who's in our co-main event. And let me tell you why. He's the lone. So this is the lone fight that's not featherweight or heavyweight, which Dominic has been just loving.
Yeah.
So this is from last week's lightweight division.
Yeah.
And the reason why Anthony Pettis has nothing he has nothing to lose here, Dom, even if he loses, is because he is still going to be number 1 no matter what. He wins or loses, I believe he holds on to that number 1 spot, which is. I don't know how I feel about that because you have a guy underneath him, Olivier Aubin-Mercier,
who's 2-0,
who's 2-0, won 2 decisions.
Yeah.
But if Anthony Pettis loses, I'm pretty sure he remains number 1 going into the playoffs. So because of that, Dom, there's a lot of pressure on Stevie Ray, who is in need of a finish to put himself into the playoffs. Actually, right now, the biggest Anthony Pettis fan in the world is last season's winner. Rosh Manfio. Manfio had a pretty disappointing loss to Olivier Aubin-Mercier last week. So he has 4 points right now. Stevie Ray lost his first round matchup. But Stevie Ray, if he's able to get a finish, I know it's through round 2, and I believe part of round 3.
Yep.
He can somehow, Rosh Manfio can go from being a huge breakout star with all this potential to all of a sudden being out of the playoffs the very next year. What a disappointing showing that would be. Even when you looked at the first round matchup he had where he was able to knock out his opponent and just an awesome knockout and just kind of show, man, this underdog, this guy just never loses.
Yeah.
And then he might be out of the playoffs. So much at stake here. Yeah. And I just love the dynamic of this matchup. Anthony Pettis, I saw you were kind of at the idea of him having nothing to lose. And I'm curious, do you think maybe if you were a fly on the wall or if you were just someone in Anthony Pettis' camp right now or on his team, do you think he cares more about what a loss might mean for kind of this post-UFC legacy he's trying to build, or do you think that really he's just playing the numbers here and is like, well, I'm not going to kill myself for this fight because I know I still have $1 million on the line later?
Yeah, you're very right. I like that latter point where it's like, why take a risk? Potentially, who knows what can happen in a fight. But there's just something in me, man. Like if Anthony Pettis loses this, he would be 1-3 in the PFL. Yes, he still gets in. It's great. He's still gonna get a 1 seed, I think. What Noah said.
I'm pretty sure it's 1 or 2.
Or like
seed.
tied for 1 because he's gonna have 6 points anyways. But like, I don't know. There's just something that if he were to go out here and lose to Stevie Ray, move to 1-3 in the PFL, and then I don't like that going into the playoffs too. Like the mental side of the game. I feel like if I'm Anthony Pettis, if I'm him, I am wanting this run, this year, this season to be as flawless as possible. Because I know he's even mentioned he wants to even dabble with the 170-pound. We've already talked about this once because I thought that's what he was doing this year because he was on that damn card. Anyways, but if he wins it here, then he's got momentum going into 170 pounds next year. I just think, well, yes, he's still in and it's all good. He's in the playoffs. There is still just that storyline there, that pressure for me to just like, if he loses, it's not a good look. I think if I were him, I'd want to make a statement every single fight this year. I don't know. We'll see. It should be a fun fight too, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know how much he makes for like just this fight alone. Like I don't know because the PFL, there's got to be a lot of the pay goes into that $1 million prize,
especially for like the lesser.
That's got to be a lot of the incentive for these guys to take these guys. Just because the PFL, yes, they're under ESPN, but they're not. It's not the UFC. It's maybe not even Bellator under Showtime, but it's in that ballpark, I guess. So I don't know how much he'll be making. I don't know how it compares to what he got paid in the UFC. Even post title run and whatnot. Yeah. But I just wonder, like, if you made me guess how much he's getting paid for this fight, and I know this isn't our wheelhouse at all, but I would probably guess it'd be like $150,000.
I was gonna say I bet he still makes 6 figures.
But I would say probably no win bonus. Like I bet it'd be just 150. Flat.
Because
somewhere around that. Which
million.
I'm not saying is we can have the.
And we could be way off. Who knows?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is I feel like there may be a significant enough discrepancy to where eyes on the prize. That $1 million prize has got to be for a guy like Pettis, who has been literally the Wheaties box guy, the former UFC champion. He has been at the pinnacle of the sport. He has been one of the biggest stars in the sport.
Yeah.
Like, how worried is he really about his legacy at this point? Like, to him, is it kind of peanuts for him to be like, okay, well, he's 1-3 in the PFL, but does it really matter to him? I don't know. I'm just kind of asking because I see where you're getting at, and I think that's a great point. But I don't know. This is the psyche of a fighter that we don't know.
Yeah, very true.
That we're trying to evaluate here. I could see it either way. I could see him really taking this fight kind of easy. Maybe he gets caught in doing so. Stevie Ray sneaks into playoffs, or I could see him just basically being like, I'll play, basically kind of run from him for the fight and just kind of, not really engage.
Pointing, yeah.
Yeah, just let, Stevie Ray take a point decision and be like, whatever. Who cares about the records in the PFL? He's like, I'm a former UFC champion. I'm a former, star. I'm going to go win that $1 million. That's really what matters here, the longevity to really make it there. You don't want to go for broke here to prove a point. And then all of a sudden you're injured and you can't even compete for that $1 million. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that that's what I hope happens. I hope we get an awesome fight, or I hope at least someone gets an awesome finish or something. But it's reasonable to consider those, to weigh those options.
Yeah, I agree. If you're listening, let us know. I want to know who everybody's looking forward to the most at this week's PFL. A lot on the line, man. This is the playoffs.
We didn't even mention the main event. Bruno Capoloza taking on Mateusz Scheffel, I believe is how it's pronounced. Yep. Bruno back in the main event, man.
Bruno's a fucking tank, man.
Yeah, dude. Hey, we are Bruno stans.
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm thinking it's funny how since we've become Bruno stans, now there's that song from that Disney movie The Let's Talk About Bruno or whatever, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
I haven't heard it, but you can sing it to me anytime.
I don't know the words, but it was like big on the radio.
Okay.
I just remember every time it comes on the radio when I'm home, because I don't listen to the radio when I'm here. My mom's like, "Oh my God, turn this fucking song off."
And Noah's like, "Bruno, yeah."
I forget the Disney movie too. People are probably like screaming at us right now for not knowing this. But anyways, let's move on, Dominic. I've changed the name of this little section
I
here.
saw and I like it.
Let's get into some tidbits.
Tidbits. Tidbits.
I tried to think of something cooler, man. I was trying to think of like a little fight, something, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. We're below average tidbits.
Yeah, there you go.
Pizza. Anyways, I don't know. The way you said tidbits kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, Dominic, did you see this video on Twitter going around of Deron Winn within just a day or so of his pretty destructive loss to Phil Hawes, providing some commentary from that fight? Did you happen to see this video going around?
Dude, I saw it going around, but I didn't get to listen to it. You have to fill me in.
No way.
A lot of people were praising him too, like we're loving it.
You should. I mean, it's
probably something I would like.
At least the video I saw was only like a minute long or so,
Yeah.
so it's not like very long. It's not the whole fight or anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you missed like a ton. I mean, I kind of just threw it on here just for shits and gigs, you know.
Yeah.
But it was very self-aware of how the fight went for him, and you know, I would recommend you go watch it after this. I'm actually kind of disappointed. You saw it on the script and didn't watch it. What the hell? I'm
disappointed. I know.
No, but it was like. He's like, and here he's elbowing me for the 4,000th time and stuff
Dude,
like that.
all that I'm envisioning is that legendary gaming clip where the guy is doing Madden and he's with is it Craig Jennings?
You talking about Darren Sharper?
Darren Sharper, the hardest hitting safety in the league. Dude, yes, that is what this is reminding me of.
He broke his fucking leg.
He put the team on his back. Yes, that is the video that I'm thinking in my head.
Hilarious video. You really shouldn't be thinking that at all because it is nowhere near that. Like, that is not what this video is. It's kind of just, honestly, credit to Deron Winn for having a sense of humor about the whole thing. You know, he took a beating.
Bad.
And then within 2 days of losing like that, was able to kind of go on there, and he speaks very clearly, just
have fun with it,
cracking some jokes at his expense. Yeah. But you know, there was like that moment where he's like, he's like, I'm trying to make it dirty. He's like, fuck you, I'm gonna elbow you back and stuff like that. And he goes, and then he goes for the takedown, and I sprawl like a motherfucker, like stuff like that. So it's pretty funny. I would recommend checking it out.
I will.
Dominic obviously didn't come prepared for work, but
not one bit.
Last one. This is the more important one. I hope you came prepared for this, Dom.
As much as I hate being prepared for it, yes, I am.
It would not be tidbits for the first time without talking about a little Jake Paul.
Oh boy.
Which I guess he really isn't the focus of this thing.
True.
But I just had to throw the name out there for the clicks, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So Dominic, we have ourselves a situation.
A little bit.
A Code Red. Code Red is what I'm going to call this. Nate Diaz, every time we talk about him, it's sort of, we go back and forth on if we're kind of pessimistic or optimistic. Is the fight with Poirier going to happen? Are they going to force him to fight Hamza? Is Nate even going to fight? Is he just, is the UFC holding him out for a Conor fight down the line? I mean, what's going on? It's like it feels like Nate's tweeting for his release every week. He's pissing on the Apex or the PI, whatever. It's getting very bizarre.
It's uncomfortable.
And then I think we hit another snag. Another snag in the road was hit here because there had been some rumors floating around that Nate and the UFC were coming close to terms on something, some sort of fight or something. And I only know that because I could tell Ariel Helwani, he never said that there, but when asked about it on, I believe it was his,
on the nose?
Ringer MMA show, but also, yes, on the MMA Hour, he would just kind of say, look, there's something in the works. I'm not going to talk about it because, he admitted this has happened before with Nate in the UFC, and then it's kind of fallen on their face. It just hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard if he's had anything to say about it since all this came out yesterday, but my guess would be whatever plans were going down, it doesn't seem like that's really the direction we're heading now. Dana did a little scrum with the Salt Lake City, the great city of Salt Lake.
We have to go to Utah.
Nothing bad ever happens in Utah, Dom.
That's right.
He did a little scrum there. He was kind of the Jazz, I think it's the owner, was welcoming him to the city, and they were taught. Basically, it was kind of a whole commercial for Salt Lake City, like just saying like, hey, it's a destination, not a flyover state now, and blah blah blah. Well, then Dana does this 10-minute interview with the Mac Life. Great, that guy's one of the best.
He's good.
Interviews. Oscar, is that his name?
Oscar Willis, I think.
Yeah. And there was kind of a big. It didn't reveal much, but it also revealed a lot about the situation, because Dana was much more coy about he was much more open about it than he had been previously.
Yeah.
Every time before, he would maybe act like he didn't know what Nate was talking about on Twitter and whatnot.
Or he's like, I'll get him a fight.
He's like, we have to get him a fight. I'll get him a fight. Here, he did kind of say that, but he also said, like, he's like, look, Nate's won one fight in the last 5 years. He said he probably should go box Jake Paul. And I went, huh?
Oh.
What? I was like, Dana, what did you just do?
Oh, it's a whole can of worms.
It's like, oh, and I know, like, Dana's probably so pissed that that quote blew up.
Oh yeah.
But Nate took that and kind of ran with it. There was multiple tweets referencing for the first time in a long time. He finally is kind of referencing the Jake Paul fight, because we really weren't sure where he stood on that.
Yeah.
He posted the clip of poor Tyron Woodley getting knocked out by Jake Paul, and basically requesting his release, asking to go fight him. He's like, I got bigger things to take care of or whatever. And then after this clip with Dana goes viral, Nate says, fine, release me, and puts like an emoji of a blonde-haired guy in a boxing glove, Jake Paul,
Yeah.
So, Dominic, we have ourselves a little bit of a mess here, and I'm curious, what's
where did we go wrong?
Yeah, well, my question is, what's going to end up happening here?
The MMA.
That's a loaded question, ain't it?
Yeah. The MMA fan, diehard fan in me is like, oh, it's all going to pass. It's just a phase. They're going to get him a fight. It's going to be huge, He's going to fight Jorge again. He's going to fight Conor. He's going to fight Dustin. Oh, damn it. That's the fight that got away. But seriously, like, I don't know. I can't see a world where the UFC, one, allows Nate Diaz to go fight Jake Paul whilst under contract. And then the second scenario, I can't see a world where the UFC actually does release Nate Diaz. So I feel like still at the end of the day, this is all just a bunch of poking and jabbing and a lot of frustration.
A lot of games.
Nate wants a fight, man, and he's trying to leverage it to the public and let the fans see his frustration. Riot, get mad at the UFC, bitch about it, all that, get mad. Dana's like, we're trying, you guys don't understand what's going on in the back end type deal. I think it's a lot of that, a lot of jibber jawing, but there is so much more going on behind the scenes that we don't see, even after this kind of mess that happened this weekend. I still think by the end of the year, Nate Diaz is in that octagon. I do. I don't see a boxing fight with Jake Paul again while he's under contract with the UFC for sure. Maybe if he fights one more time and he's done, maybe we do see that. But right now, I think we see a fight by the end of the year. I do. Truthfully.
I mean, but this is that's the thing, Dom. Is like, well, what's the alternative? Because they have to offer him a fight. Like he's
like, can you see them releasing Nate Diaz? Like, honestly,
that's why I think that's the alternative, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I can't see it.
There's no way that they let that guy walk free.
No way. That'd be crazy. That would be one of the biggest.
He is worth all of this, by the way.
Yes.
And I think they know that. I mean, Dana, for his credit, he's not necessarily criticizing anything about Nate Diaz outside of the fact that he's he is kind of putting him on the same level of like Cowboy Cerrone at this point and stuff.
But like, if you put Nate on a card, he's gonna do one of your top 3 best pay-per-views of the year. That's how it is.
Yeah, you're probably right. So
Dana can downplay it all he wants.
I mean, Dominic, do you remember? I think when did we? I want to say around the time that we went to Columbus, and maybe it was a bit after that. We talked about Nate one of the many times we talked about this situation, and I think the question you posed was, do we see a fight announcement by the end of April? And we both
remember
were like,
that.
Ooh,
because that was
I think
a whole month
we both said no to our credit, but it was a struggle.
And now here we are.
End of June, nothing. I just don't understand what's going on.
What the fuck is happening? Have we seen anything like this before?
There's got to be a fight coming. And I think a lot of signs point to Khamzat Chimaev being in that fight.
Gosh.
Because Nate is definitely playing a game here. He is trying.
Oh, yeah.
Because the UFC, I think, as much as am I really going to admit this? Am I going to admit this?
Uh-oh.
I've been kind of the one that wouldn't admit this, and now I feel like I'm about to admit something I don't want to admit. It feels like the UFC are really not wanting Nate Diaz to go box Jake Paul. Yeah. Like, I think that they seem a bit not scared of it because, like, what's it? Really
I really see where you're going now. Okay, I got you.
No, I'm not saying they're scared. No, don't do that.
All right, continue. Hold on.
I saw some lights flashing in there. I don't know what's going on.
Spooky.
Might be a cop out there. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
What I'm saying is,
ease back in.
That I feel like the UFC don't want that fight to happen. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I'm not going to say they're scared of Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz because, again, why would they be? They're so big and, they don't really have anything to fear there. But it feels like they really don't want that fight to happen.
If you're the UFC.
Because think about it like this. Nate Diaz has one fight left. So this is where this whole tug of war is happening, right? Yeah. Nate Diaz wants to have a fight.
Against anybody, apparently.
And then wants to bounce. Wants to move on.
Yeah.
The UFC is like, either
please don't.
First they're like, that's fine, but you're going to fight Khamzat Chimaev. But if that's not fine, then we'll give you a Dustin Poirier, but you're going to sign a 3-fight contract.
Right.
Nate Diaz isn't going to leave to go headline a Bellator card.
No, absolutely not. He will not fight for a PFL or Bellator. No, not at all.
So the only competitive at all thing that he could go do is box someone like Jake Paul.
Yeah.
And the UFC, for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's like a pride thing. Like, again, Jake Paul knocked out Ben Askren. He knocks out Tyron Woodley. If he were to knock out Nate Diaz, it's, I don't know if they're trying to nip this thing in the bud, like really stop or hold out a lot of these fighters that could find themselves on the receiving end of that from doing that. They definitely seem to be, something's going on there.
You think that's kind of the whole reason Dana even said that then? Just like to put it off as like, I don't give a shit. But like deep down.
What's saying like he should go box?
Yeah, but he's like, fuck no, he shouldn't. Like, I don't want that.
I think he's saying, I think what he was doing there is he's trying to undervalue Nate Diaz.
Okay, yes, he is. You're right.
Because it's a game, right? This is negotiation tactics. So he's like, he's won one fight in the last 5 years. And when he's saying he should go box Jake Paul, he's saying Nate Diaz is the kind of guy that Jake Paul boxes, which Dana said is like guys that are not as big as him, that are old, past their prime, not good boxers. That's what he said about Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren. That's what he's saying there.
Yeah.
So it is undervaluing Nate Diaz in a sense, but something's got to give. Either he's going to get a fight, and it's probably going to be against Khamzat, or he's going to get cut. I mean, I don't know what else is there to do.
I feel like I can name 5 other fights I'd rather Nate have than fight Hamza.
Let's talk about one of them.
Let's do that.
Because I hate that this became the big story because I was so prepared to come on here and advocate for Nate Diaz versus Kevin Holland.
Oh, I'm glad we can finish this point with this then.
Nate Diaz versus Kevin Holland is one of the best fights I had never even thought about.
And then now why, to the people that don't know, why are you saying this? What happened?
So, okay, Kevin Holland, recent addition to the welterweight division.
Yep.
Solid run at middleweight, kind of fizzled out because he was undersized.
Right.
He's an exciting fighter. Got an exciting fight style. He likes to stand and bang.
Personality on another level.
Personality at a 10. The shit talk at a 10.
Yeah.
Fireworks with Nate Diaz. Yeah, who knows what the fight would even turn out to be? I mean, who knows how good the fight might. Maybe the fight wouldn't even be that great. Maybe it'd be quick. Maybe Kevin Holland starches it. Maybe Nate Diaz just kind of finds a way to get a submission victory or something over. Who knows? But
sick fight.
It's a sick build up to a fight.
Yeah.
And for Nate Diaz, if you're not going to do Dustin Poirier, you're not going to do like a Tony Ferguson. This is the fight.
I think it's a sweet fight.
And
it makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense for Kevin Holland, obviously, because I'm not sure if Kevin Holland, he called for like a Sean Brady, which Sean Brady said he would take that fight, but apparently he has a matchup he's about to get announced for, is what he said.
I'm intrigued.
So yeah, I'm very intrigued on that. But, Kevin Holland probably should be fighting the top 15 next, but also, he's kind of one of those guys now that...
Fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him fighting not a guy in the top 15 just because, he is the A side in a lot of these fights he's taken right now.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't be with Diaz, but you get the biggest payday of your career.
Yep.
It feels like a very competitive bout on paper. Like, as good as Kevin Holland is, I think Nate Diaz would... I mean, you might favor Kevin Holland, but Nate Diaz, man, I think he could really give him a good fight there.
I agree.
So Kevin Holland basically, because I think Nate Diaz's tweet was like, "Give me a fight with anybody."
Yeah.
And then Kevin Holland changed his name on Twitter to "Anybody for Nate Diaz" or "I'm anybody for Nate Diaz."
Quote tweeted it.
That was originally the name of this the title of this section.
Yeah.
But shit changed.
Right.
That I never had even considered that fight, and now I want it so bad.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a phenomenal fight. You want to talk about fan-friendly in every sense of the word. There's not a fight fan I know that wouldn't be excited for that. It makes sense for both guys. It just seems so easy, doesn't it? Just saying it. But
how realistic would that even be? If we're kind of operating under this fleeting assumption that Nate Diaz is going to get a fight. What is the most realistic fight for him to get right now? Is it Khamzat Chimaev? Is that the number one?
Dude, if I'm the
that's
UFC,
got to be right.
If the UFC's point is to give someone to Nate Diaz that they can build upon by beating him, Khamzat doesn't need that anymore.
I know.
He doesn't need that. You know who needs that? Kevin fucking Holland would need that and could benefit so much from that.
But I think what we're kind of ignoring or choosing to ignore here is that matchup's not being made to build up Khamzat. It's being made to tear down Nate Diaz.
All right. Yeah, you're right.
And I hate to say that.
That's a quote right there. I got to pull that. Ooh.
And I hate to say that because, I don't love, we love the UFC. I don't like this petty, vindictive kind of bullshit.
Yep.
But it's a reality. You've seen it in their past, and no doubt it's probably still an element in
this is just so public dealings. Now.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could at least end on a somewhat positive note there.
Call Big Mouth, baby.
The reason why I'm kind of looking away, I'm actually pulling up Bellator 282's card so I could have some stats in front of me for their undercard. But that's coming in a little bit. Fight announcements. We do have one.
Just one.
Heavyweight division, UFC 278, August 20th. Marcin Tybura taking on Alexandr Romanov. So Romanov,
he's coming.
He's the heavy of this heavyweight division. He is he's the shining star, the one that's on the come up right now. Marcin Tybura had a great bounce back in 2020. He was on our finalist for the Comeback Fighter of the Year for that. Yep. Kind of an under the radar pick, but I stand by it. Since then, he's kind of came back down to earth. You know, he's still ranked in the top 10, I think deservedly so. But this feels like a fight that Romanov should win pretty handedly.
Yeah, they're ready to put him in there, huh? That's what this one feels like.
I will say, though, that the one knock that I've had on Romanov this entire time was that cardio we saw when he fought Juan Espino. I finally got the name right. Espino, who had won the Ultimate Fighter just a couple years ago. As I believe Romanov got a DQ victory because he essentially gassed to 0 in the third round, and Espino was really taking over. But then I think a nut shot kind of ended things. There may have been some words shared from some people online about maybe Romanov kind of quitting because he was tired. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that was the image that some people had of that fight. Regardless, besides that, Romanov's looked like an absolute tank.
And he's just cut down.
Tybura is pretty good at weathering storms and kind of hanging in there in the later rounds. Saw that against Greg Hardy and guys like that. So I still lean Romanov pretty heavy, but it's a good matchmaking.
Yeah, a proper next step. Yeah.
And I did see Dana was talking about, this is that card in Salt Lake City, by the way. And when Dana was talking about the fights on the card, he mentioned Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold. And I said, Dana, come on, man. Stop lying to yourself.
It ain't happening.
Stop lying to yourself. That fight ain't happening.
Yeah.
There is a better chance that Nate Diaz fights Jake Paul in the UFC.
Whoa!
Then that fight goes down on August 20th between Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold.
Well, this will be saved. Just
we can't wait for it to be fight of the year at the Joey's.
Yes. All right.
Moving on from that, let's get into the rest, Dom. We do have some more fights to talk about here.
Yes.
Let's start with probably the most under the radar fight on this card. Umar Nurmagomedov, a name that immediately strikes fear into the hearts of many.
And the odds say so.
He comes in. What's the odds up to now for him? I have it on here.
He is a minus 900. Nate is on the comeback plus 625.
Okay. See, I made this sheet out yesterday, and he was a minus 850 at the time, so climbing, by the way.
It's fucking nuts.
14-0, Umar Nurmagomedov, taking on 14-1 Nate Maness in this bantamweight division that is, again, just... It's a competition. I mean, these three weight classes, when you go from bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, they're just...
far and above.
Each division has like an advantage over the other two, but they're not all the same parts of the rankings and not rankings. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And here, for bantamweight, such great prospects that are being built up right now. And these two guys, I'm saying both of them are included in that. Now, Nurmagomedov does have the shine. He has the lineage. He is a deserved favorite in this matchup. He's looked fantastic in the UFC. Brian Kelleher, first-round submission in his last outing. Had a submission over Sergey Morozov, also on this card. A great striker who was favored to beat Raulian Paiva, who was a top 15 bantamweight at one time. So that kind of shows you, the kind of talent we're dealing with here. But Dominic, when I saw Nate Maness being at plus 625...
Disrespect. Yes, that's what it is.
I understand why. It's hard for me to sit here and advocate the opposite because I'm leaning Nurmagomedov for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Because these guys both pride themselves on being extraordinary grapplers.
Oh man,
Nurmagomedov, the wrestling. Nate Maness has got exceptional, ground game skills as well.
Super underrated fighter.
Yeah, and honestly, Nate Maness also kind of more well-rounded than people think. He's got actually more wins via KO TKO than submission, by the way, just putting that out there. But I digress. It's a grappler's dream, this fight.
Yes.
But to me, Nate Maness is not this big of an underdog. There's no way. There's just no way that you can tell me that.
These type of odds means he's not even going to land a punch. That's what these odds mean.
And for all I know, that is how it's going to go. I mean, maybe Umar decides to pull up. He decides to do the same thing that Islam did to Bobby Green or something. And it's well, shit. I was wrong about that. But I just really don't think that's the way this fight's going to go. I could see Nurmagomedov for sure dominating this fight. But that would say so much about where Nurmagomedov is at this point. Yeah. Based off of what we've seen from these two at this point, there's not that big of a discrepancy. Nate Maness, we've actually seen Nate Maness battle back. His last outing was a comeback win against Tony Gravely.
Yep.
One he nearly got finished in the first round. And Tony Gravely, a hard puncher.
Very.
Saw the knockout win he had a couple weeks ago. Nate Maness hung in there. He battled back. He had the much better cardio, was able to secure the takedowns and get the TKO victory in round 2. He looked phenomenal in battling back after being nearly finished. Yes, you say nearly finished, like that's kind of a doubt. You don't want that. But outside of that, like, yes, some of these names aren't really going to stick out. You know, Luke Sanders, Johnny Munoz, who just fought a couple weeks ago as well. But not, like, great names outside of that. But, I mean, the Tony Gravely win said a lot to me about kind of where he is and, like, what he can battle through. Umar Nurmagomedov's never really had to face that. Now, that does say a lot to his credit that he's just, I mean, 7 submissions in his 14 victories. This guy literally is submitting you, or he's winning a decision where he takes you into deep waters and drowns you. That's what he does. And that could very well be what we get here. But I'll be damned if I'm going to be the one who just willy-nilly lets this slide, these odds makers here, and really disrespecting the talent of Nate Maness.
Couldn't have said it better, my friend.
Well, I like that. I like the sound of that. It's a mic drop moment right there. Also on this card, IO. Chris Curtis. He should have been on the Columbus card.
Damn it.
But instead, he's here at the Apex and he's taking on Rodolfo Vieira. Perhaps the guy that Dominic has what's the word? What's the word when? Why am I blanking on my betting terms now? When you do the opposite of what?
Faded.
Like, perhaps the fighter that Dominic has faded the most up to this point is Rodolfo Vieira.
This is true.
Because Rodolfo Vieira, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace.
World
the guy
champion.
Is fantastic.
Yeah.
8-1 in his MMA career. He's got 7 wins via submission. Chris Curtis, 28-8 in his career. This guy has fought anywhere and everywhere. But what's been most impressive is this UFC run. He's 2-0. 2 short notice fights against tough opponents and Phil Hawes and Brendan Allen, and he finished both of them.
He won our newcomer of the year, right? Last year?
Yes, he did. He did. Yeah. This is a guy who had fought in the PFL. I believe had I don't even think he had a great record in the PFL. Like this guy, I believe he might have fought for Bellator at one point. Like Chris Curtis has fought anywhere and everywhere. This guy's retired 2 or 3 times. I mean, his story is incredible. But if you go off of what we've seen in the UFC, he doesn't look to be slowing down at all. This doesn't look just to be some swan song run. It could be. Maybe the next time he loses, he's like, hey, I did what I wanted to do. I'm hanging him up. But until I hear those words, I think this guy he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And Rodolfo Vieira has just not figured it out in the UFC.
Yeah.
This guy got submitted by Anthony Hernandez, and Anthony Hernandez is a good fighter.
I've never seen someone gas so hard in my life.
It was. I think that's the loss. Like what I talk about with Romanov and the Espino fight. That's your Romanov Espino fight. Is the Vieira Hernandez fight. He's looked great outside of that. He got nothing but finishes in the UFC. Mm-hmm. But that loss is a sticking point. And have the improvements really been made? Yes, he got the submission win after that against Dustin Stoltzfus, but Chris Curtis is better than Anthony Hernandez.
Yes.
This is by far the best fighter he's fought up to this point. And I'm not
so
sure
experienced.
I just don't know if he's ready for this step up. To the credit of him, though, Chris Curtis, only 1 submission victory in his career and does have 1 submission loss. So this guy really does avoid the ground pretty well.
Yeah. That's
going to be the battle here. Can he avoid the ground with Rodolfo Vieira? If this fight stays standing for any amount of time, any extended amount of time, I think it's a tough night for Rodolfo.
100%. After Curtis's explosion in the UFC last year, 2-0, Phil Hawes, damn it, I keep calling him Phil. Phil Hawes and then Brendan Allen knocked them both out short notice, as Noah said. I thought he was ready for top 15. I felt they should have gave him top 15. But I like this matchup because Vieira is a totally different matchup than those 2 guys. And the UFC is like, well, before we give you a number next to your name, how about we test you? Can you keep this fight standing against a jiu-jitsu ace? If he does and passes that test, gotta give him a ranking next. Honestly, the winner of this should get a ranked fighter. But I do like the thought process behind this matchup. Just hope Curtis can show out for the good old state of Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Following that, Bellator 282, we got a couple more fights to talk about from there. Some more bantamweight Grand Prix matchups going to be resolved here. I believe these are quarterfinal matchups.
I feel like they turned this around so quick because these are the guys that fought in those like play-in.
Yes. So I believe here's the quarterfinals. So we're down to 8 fighters.
Yeah.
Wait, yes, 8 fighters. So these are our last 2 quarterfinal matchups, because we already saw. Now I'm blanking.
Horiguchi fought and
yeah.
I forget all the other ones. Dude, they haven't had a card in forever. Spare us,
guys, please. I'm sorry.
Spare us.
But this is our last 2 quarterfinal matchups. I'm glad it's clearing up in my brain. The cobwebs are clearing out.
Yeah.
Bellator's back. So we see Leandro Higo taking on Danny Sabatello. Dominic.
Oh man.
Danny Sabatello is a name to watch out for, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And dare I say, this guy is a dark horse to win this whole thing. And actually, if he does, Bellator better strap the rocket to this guy. All that time they spent not promoting their events, put all that money that you wasted and put it into promoting Danny Sabatello. This guy is the real deal. He fights hard. He's got a great skill set, and he's got the talk to back it up. He is the kind of homegrown star that Bellator should really be putting out there to the fans.
100%. The dude's won 6 in a row. He was on the Contender Series in November of 2020 and even won a fight there. So obviously no contract earned, but now he's here in the Bellator. He's in the Grand Prix. He was in that play-in. He was an underdog going into that fight, and now all of a sudden, after a dominant performance, he's a minus 520 favorite. My, how the turn tables, because he's going up against Leandro Higo. This is a great matchup. I think it's 2 super well-rounded guys. Obviously, though, Sabatello, an ace on the ground. Higo, 12 submissions of his own. This could be a grapple fest. It could be very fun to watch with all the transitions. And if they scrap on the feet, let's see what they're made of.
Leandro Higo 3-fight win streak, by the way, but that win streak dates back to 2019. He's literally had 1 fight each calendar year.
Yeah.
So the activities slipped off a little bit. He's still only 33 years old. His last win was Darian Caldwell, which was a split decision, but a hard-earned victory there. Ricky Bandejas was another win, a submission victory over him. That's a good win. So he's got good wins on here. He did have a TKO loss to Aaron Pico back in the day, to Darian Caldwell before that. But, he's been a mainstay in Bellator, Higo. So I do think I like the matchup for sure. I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting fight in the world, but I'm very intrigued because I do think very highly of Sabatello, but Higo's pretty proven at this point.
Yeah, very.
Following that, talk about another Dagestani great, Magomedov, taking on Enrique Barzola. Dominic, what kind of chances do you give Enrique Barzola here? He's ranked number 10 in the rankings, while Magomedov number 4. Magomedov, literally the guy, he has 2 losses in his professional career. One of them was to Rafael Stotts, who just won the interim belt in his first matchup in the Grand Prix. His other loss, Petr Yan, former UFC bantamweight champion. So that just shows you how good Magomedov is. What kind of chances do you give someone like Enrique Barzola here?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to win this fight.
Really?
I don't. I don't. I think while Magomed is obviously the favorite for a reason, only nothing crazy. Minus 155, I think, is what he came in at.
Really? That's it.
Yeah. And I think maybe some of that's because of the Rafael Stotts fight. It didn't look great for him. It was kind of a dull fight. It wasn't anything great. But Barzola, man, he's undefeated in the Bellator 2-0, has a good record, 18-5. He likes to finish fights. He was in the UFC as well, had a solid record there, 6-3-1. So I'm not ruling him out. I think it's possible. But, man, if Magomed can get a hold of him, ride that backpack, throw him all around the cage, that's when the problems can happen. Because if he does that in round 1, gets it early, then it's just going to be a snowball effect. I think Barzola has to come out strong and really set a tone, set a pace in the first round, or then it could be a landslide.
Yeah. Also on this main card, I didn't put it on our list, but I just wanted to mention that Irish Brennan Ward is back. Brennan Ward, man, last time out, like it was his first fight back. He had just that tumultuous, last few years after once being such a promising young fighter for Bellator. He came back and got a big win, and now he's back here taking on Cassius Kane. I don't know, I don't know what Brennan Ward's like. I don't know what is this just kind of a feel-good little run we're getting here, or is he really going to commit to, making a real run, like going for a title type thing? I don't know what we're really getting, but it's good to see him back and really does fill out this card nicely. Mm-hmm. And then the last fight, Dominic, I just wanted to throw it out there. Kat Zingano back, women's featherweight division, taking on Pam Sorensen.
Yep.
Kat Zingano deep on the prelims, Dom. We thought she should be fighting Chris Cyborg for a title.
I don't get it.
Here she is. Your thoughts?
I just don't get it. I don't understand. She's 2-0 in Bellator. Won both of her fights. Nothing crazy, but nothing like too razor thin or where she didn't look good.
I thought she looked solid, yeah.
Yeah. And she's ranked number 2 in the division. She's a fresh matchup for the champion, Chris Cyborg, let alone they're two pioneers of women's mixed martial arts that have never fought each other. And you're not going to make that?
Who doesn't love Kat Zingano?
I just don't get why Bellator doesn't want to give her a title fight. We felt that she earned it a year ago, but now here we are and she's fighting number 6, Pam Sorensen. What's this win do?
And Dominic, we understand like this in this division, like earning a title fight, like it's not the same as
2-0 is enough for Kat Zingano.
Yes, I agree. And instead, they're talking about running back Chris Cyborg with the Irish.
Fucked her knee up real bad. Sinead Kavanaugh.
Sinead Kavanaugh, thank you. So definitely doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I don't get it.
That fight. Like,
I don't get it.
But you got to think if Zingano could come in here and get a big win, maybe get a finish. It's got to open somebody's eyes over there. It's got to, right?
And if she loses, it's just like, well,
if she loses, then it's like, well, we look stupid then.
Well, okay, man, maybe we do look stupid, but too, like if you're Bellator, if she loses, you're like, damn it, maybe we should have at least gave her the chance.
If she loses, we look stupid and Bellator looks stupid because they should have taken advantage of that fight when they had the chance, even if she would have got smashed,
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the betting side, the below average bet slip, if you will.
Ooh, I forgot it was time. Give me a second here.
No PFL, no Bellator for this one. We're sticking to our guns right now, guys. We just had a good bounce back week last week, so we're still, we're not getting overzealous. We're not getting overconfident after one good week. Yep. We're just trying to make it a run now. Don't let the Joes get hot because when that happens, things are a little scary. So
I'm excited.
Well, let's go from top to bottom on this list.
Damn, that poster looks clean, huh? I like
poster.
That
looks okay. It looks okay.
I kind of fuck with like the cartoon look.
Is that you think it's a cartoon?
Little cartoony, like it's realistic pictures, but I don't know.
I'm a little confused. Like some of the things on the poster are kind of confused. Like I like the way the fighters look.
Yeah,
like, they look a little glossy.
Yeah,
maybe that's what you're thinking.
Cartoony.
But like the blue behind them, like why is the
random.
Blue? Why is the black? Why is the blue get cut off and then it's black? Like what's going on there?
Good point.
Is that a window? Like I'm confused. Anyways, we have some weird unit sizes here. 2.35 units. Me and Dominic, we both are in on Chris Curtis moneyline. I put it 1.35 in order to win one. Dominic putting a single unit down. Chris Curtis minus 135. We kind of already said it, Dom, but the longer this fight stays standing, you heavily favor Chris Curtis.
Yes.
He's basically made an entire career out of avoiding submissions. He only has one submission win, and he only has one submission loss. So not a guy that takes the fight to the ground very often. Rodolfo Vieira just has yet to seem really confident or comfortable in MMA and in the UFC. So I don't have much hope for him here in his toughest fight to date. I still don't think the jitters of that Anthony Hernandez fight have worn off.
Yeah, just one more thing to add before we move on, because we've said it a lot already, but I do think while the knockout is obviously in play for Curtis, as long as it's on the feet, you got to think is just the longer the fight goes in general, you can lean for a decision victory for Chris Curtis as well. I just think there's more past the victory, a knockout or a decision, whereas for Vieira, or if he doesn't get it on the ground, it's probably chalk for him. So.
Very true, very true. I also followed that up with another money line play, 1.1 units on Carlos Ulberg at -110. He is fighting Tafon and Chukwi, two guys who came in with a little bit of hype, but both sort of underperformed up to this point. I would say Tafon and Chukwi has looked a little bit worse. You know, for Ulberg, he got a solid win his last time out. It was kind of a safe win. Everybody knows before that he had that fight. I forget who he was fighting. It's that
Kennedy and Chukwani?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Man, you said that very fast. Kennedy, you said that like you had to get it out or in 2 seconds or you were gonna die.
Forget.
Yeah. Kennedy and Chukwani. That was very good.
I almost just pissed myself. Anyway.
I think you were just like, you had that ready in case I asked about Kennedy and Chukwani the whole night. You're like, Kennedy and Chukwani. So, shut up! I'm trying to save my fucking picks. Carlos Ulberg. They had a fantastic war of a fight. Carlos Ulberg looked great early, great striker. He's out of the city kickboxing group, so trains with like Israel Adesanya and guys like that. Unfortunately for him, Kennedy and Chukwani, I can't even say his name. He was able to withstand the punches, withstand the punishment, and ultimately Ulberg kind of gassed himself trying to put him away. So then he came back and kind of knocked him the fuck out.
It was bad.
It was kind of a crazy knockout.
That's what Kennedy does. If he's down in a fight, you're probably fucked.
And it's so weird, Dom. These guys, Ulberg and Chukwi, I believe both come in with they both have less than 10 fights professionally. It's kind of bizarre.
They're barely over 10 combined.
Yeah, like the sample size is very limited. But basically, Ulberg, when he's been on, has looked very good.
Yes,
his striking is very good. As long as he doesn't gas himself going for a finish, I think he'll be fine. Tafon and Chukwi has great power, which does scare me a little bit because, you know, Ulberg a little chinny maybe. But I think the guys that Ulberg trains with are I think they prepared him probably very well for this kind of style matchup. I just think Ulberg, if this fight stays standing, I think Ulberg is going to pick him apart. That's really how I view this. And Tafon and Chukwi, been a bit underwhelming in the UFC, so I don't have too much hope for him.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. So Vanessa Demopoulos, the dogs are barking because plus 220, and she's fighting Jin Yu Fry. And why? Why? Someone justify to me, seriously, reasonably, why she is a plus 220 underdog.
Is her opponent's last name really pronounced Fry?
I think it's pronounced Fry, but it's spelled Frey, right? F-R-E-Y.
I don't know why it made me laugh.
I think it's
like
Jin
Yu French fry. Like,
listen.
But okay, yes, continue.
I don't get it. If this fight to me is a pick'em fight, it's a 50-50 fight. So if I'm seeing someone at plus 220, I'm gonna take it. And then, like, yes, Jin's on a 2-fight win streak, but they're so lackluster. Not much goes on. I think I was watching a breakdown of someone talking about her last 2 fights where she landed combined like 60 or 70 strikes between the 2 fights, barely outstruck her opponents to close decision victories. Vanessa Demopoulos, when she goes out there and is on, like Noah said previously with Carlos, she's on, man. She was down and got knocked down in that fight against Juarez Gomez, who just had that crazy knockout last week, fought back and had that crazy submission win in the first round, jumped into Joe Rogan's lap after she won. I just think she's 4 years younger. She's just as good as Jen everywhere that the fight takes place. I think she's more willing to kind of get in there, make it scrappy, go for finishes. I just think there's more routes to victory. She takes more risk, and I think in a fight like this, taking a risk pays off a little bit more. So I'm going with that all day at plus 220. It could bite me in the ass. I get that. But again, if I see a 50-50 fight and you're giving me plus 220, I'm taking it all day, and I'm going right here with Vanessa Demopoulos.
I was a little surprised by the odds. I don't remember too much about Jen Frey's really run, which maybe that does say enough about it. She's 2-2 in the UFC. I know the name, but I couldn't tell you much about any of the fights that I've seen with her. Vanessa, of course, had that big moment in her last fight.
Just better competition for her in general too.
Even
if it's losses.
Jen Frey, 37 years old, by the way, so not young. But I will say Jen Frey does have a 5.5-inch reach advantage over Vanessa, so that is pretty significant. But that isn't exactly Vanessa's game either. So
right.
I don't know. It is a bit of a toss-up fight. Yeah, you're right. I mean, even if you look at Vanessa, what she was doing before the UFC, she had losses to Lupe Godinez and Corey McKenna just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And LFA Cage Warrior.
Corey McKenna was on the Contender Series that she lost to her. And then her UFC loss was JJ Aldrich, and we saw the run that she was on. Yeah. So it's just like the competition is in her side as well.
Jen Frey lost to Kay Hansen in the UFC, has wins over Gloria DePaula and Ashley Yoder.
Yeah.
Gloria DePaula fought last week and lost, so I get what you're saying for sure. I think for me, when I look at a fight like that and I see those odds, I was surprised by them. But to me, it made me go, shit, I must really not know much about Jen Frey. Because
I hope that's not the case.
Just because I'm like, man, because I really don't, there's not anything that stands out from any of her fights for me.
Exactly, man. I just didn't understand it.
Next one, 0.5 units on Nate Maness money line. Plus
he had to do it.
Do I have to explain myself here?
He had to
this isn't me saying that I think he's going to win. It's just me saying that I don't think plus 625 is reasonable for this fight.
Yeah.
It may prove to go that way once the fight takes place. Umar Nurmagomedov is definitely capable of putting a fight away in very quick fashion, dominating a fight. That could very well happen. But based off what we've seen of these two up to this point, I don't believe it's that much of a mismatch. Don't believe it. And this fight is both guys very good grapplers. But Nate Maness has showed a little bit more on the feet in his UFC outings. Umar Nurmagomedov doesn't really do that.
Right.
He's pretty much pure submissions and grappling. So it'll be interesting to see how Maness does. Again, I'm not expecting him to win, but I have to throw it out there. 0.5 units. I mean,
and if it hits, that's a pretty little payday.
It is a pretty little payday, and it'll be a nice little unit. Income for us. So.
Very much, very much.
Next one, Dom.
Yes, sir. So Shavkat Rakhmonov, listen, he's 15-0. He's in the co-main event slot against Neil Magny. I love this fight. I think it's perfect matchmaking for Shavkat to kind of prove where do you stand if you want to enter into this top 10 of this division. And man, listen, I know Neil Magny's durable. I know he's tough. But at the end of the day, 15 fights, 15 finishes. Almost split right down the middle. 8 knockouts, 7 submissions for Shavkat. Neil Magny, yes, goes the distance a lot, but typically, no, it's when he's on the winning side of things. He's got 8 losses in his career. 6 of them have come via finish, and I believe that Shavkat is that good. I believe in him. And at minus 135, for a guy that has a 100% finish rate, come on, man.
That was a great stat you threw out there about the decisions. I didn't really notice that.
I just really do believe in Rakhmonov, and I love Neil Magny. I think he's a dog. I think he has a chance to obviously set a record and beat GSP this weekend to get his 20th win. But I think it's Shavkat's time to shine, and I think he does it emphatically.
Let's talk. We can kind of combine these next two, very similar in our mindsets here. The Cheyenne Bay, oh my God, JP Bays taking on Cody Durden for the fight for the most likable guy in the UFC. I have this fight inside the distance at plus 100. Dominic saying fuck your last half round. taking under 2.5 rounds at plus 125, just outdoing me just a little bit. No, but I like the plays here. I do. I think when you look at these two guys, Cody Durden and JP Buys, when they're not being fucks, I mean, they seem to be, they're pretty good fighters. And they both have had tough runs, though, in the UFC. I mean, they're a combined 1-4-1 in the UFC. Not great.
Yeah.
But as far as why this fight doesn't go to distance or it goes under 2.5 rounds, you look at the decision rates for these guys. JP Buys only has 1 decision in 14 fights.
Yeah.
Cody Durden, 4 decisions, so a little bit more, but in 17 fights.
Yeah.
That just is what really is on the line here. And plus, both guys fighting for their UFC careers, probably.
Yes.
I expect someone, maybe even both, to come out here very aggressive, looking for a finish. Maybe JP Buys, motivated by his tumultuous divorce from Cheyenne Vlismas, looks to put away Cody Durden.
There it is. You
and
took
for,
all
and
this
for
back.
no and for no reason at all, I'm going to just mention shout out to Roman Dolidze for getting a big win last week. I'm guessing you don't know the backstory to that.
Oh boy.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm pretty sure that Cheyenne Vlismas is getting,
Oh, okay. They're friends. Her and Roman.
Yeah, they hang out a little bit.
Like the bowling, like we bowl. With Macy Barber and
No, you were just asking for relationship advice. Don't forget, Dom's over there, not a horny guy at all. Not him. Dom doesn't even have testicles. Oh my god. Like, whatever, dude. Anyways, next fight here.
Is this next on me? Yeah, it is. Listen, okay, so Noah took the dog. Obviously, he's taking a chance. I love that he's taking a chance because it's worth the risk. For this fight, though, in general, you look at it on paper, these guys go to the decision, yada, yada, yada. I think this is going to be a sick-ass fight. I think someone's getting a finish in this one. For Nurmagomedov, 4 of his last 5 fights have been under 2.5 rounds. 3 of them have actually ended in the first, including both of his fights in the UFC have been under 2.5. And for Nate Maness, 7 out of his 10 fights of his last 10 have been under 2.5 rounds. And his only professional loss also reached that mark at under 2.5. He got body kicked, TKO'd. So I just think I could see a lot of grappling, obviously, in this one. But typically when the two really elite grapplers go together, they tend to strike. So then something could happen there. And I really do just think that on the ground, someone is probably going to get submitted. I love at minus 150, getting pretty solid odds. I think it's going under 2.5. I think it's going to be a much more exciting fight than some people may think on paper. But if you're like a really hardcore fan, this is one of the best fights of the whole weekend.
See, I view this as being one of your riskier plays, but yet the minus 150 says that this is likely how the fight is going to go.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It is.
Let's talk about the parlays, Dom. Me and you in agreement on our first moneyline parlay. 2.43 units in total. Of course, 1.43 of that being me and 1 for Dom. Arman Tsarukyan in the main event, along with Shavkat Rakhmonov, both moneyline plays. Shavkat, we've already kind of explained it. Neil Magny is the right test for him right now. He is a good test. I am not as confident in Dom of a finish, but I think that Shavkat will be just fine if this fight goes to the distance. And yes, I understand that Neil Magny, the king of decision victories, so maybe I shouldn't be as confident in that, but I just think Rakhmonov's just the more dangerous opponent at this point. Neil Magny taking a half step back, I felt like, in his last fight. I feel like we were starting to see just a bit of a decline. Main event, Arman Tsarukyan. Mateusz Gamrot's so good that, and again, I thought the odds might be a little bit too skewed in Tsarukyan's favor, but if I'm doing when I'm looking at who I'm going to do a moneyline parlay on, this was immediately my pick.
Yeah.
Outside of Shavkat, Arman, I think, is just done it against the more not proven. I think he's doing it against better talent as of late. Guys that are just better right now. Gamrot gets full credit for taking on guys that were really good at one time, but I don't think he got the best of them when he fought them. Tsarukyan taking on a lot of killers in his run. I think it's only benefited him because you see the dividends it's paying off now. This was a guy that got criticized at one time for not getting finishes. Yep. Here he is on back-to-back finishes. And brutally, might I add, the Joel Alvarez and even Christos Giagos was all on the feet.
Yep.
I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, and I think that's the big edge here.
Yeah.
Because he just, again, it's kind of what you say. It's if we're playing the odds, more routes to victory, it's got to be what kind of gives someone the edge.
Yeah, I love everything that Noah said. Copy and paste for me. And, I originally wanted to add a third leg to those two, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. It worked last week. If you watched last week, we kind of took a different approach. We went all 2 legs. I had 3 2-leg money line parlays, 2 of which hit. One, I was 1 leg short of. It turned out to be an amazing performance from Natalia Silva, so I can't even complain about that. So I went with that 2-legger in agreement with Noah, and then I went an additional 2-leg money line. Thiago Moises, he's closing at a minus 255. I really like Thiago, man. When he is there and putting on his best performances, I think he really is like a top 15 talent. I really do believe that. He's 5 years younger than Christos Giagos, who we just talked about a second ago with these 2 main event guys. I just think Thiago has not only kind of put together more, I think his ceiling is a bit higher, but in his wins, it's more impressive than Giagos' wins. He's beaten Michael Johnson. He's beaten Bobby Green. He's beaten Alexandr Hernandez. That was that 3-fight win streak he went on before that 2-fight skid that he's on. So, yes.
He had a ranking next to his name not too long ago.
He had a ranking next to his name, and then he had to run into a guy named Islam Makhachev in his main event. That was kind of a main event that felt somewhat similar to this one a little bit. But, yeah, he's on a 2-fight skid, not momentum, but I think he bounces back. Again, just the younger guy, the higher ceiling. I think he gets it done. And then TJ Brown, I like this fight because, again, better competition here in the UFC. He's going up against I'm going to fuck this up. Okay, I'm just going to...
I think it's Shaylin.
Shaylin Nurdanbeki.
Nerd on Becky.
I'm going to call him Wolverine. That's
he said nerd on Becky.
Now listen, experience-wise, you're probably thinking, well, he's 37-10, the Wolverine that is. But it's one of those guys, and I'm not making accusations, but we see this a lot, right? With some of these Chinese fighters, they come in with records that are just unreal, just crazy.
You're saying he's stat padded.
I'm just saying that he's 1-1 right now in the UFC. He lost to Joshua Kulabau. He just fought, I think, last week, didn't he? Or a couple weeks ago. And then he beat Sean Soriano. But if you look at TJ's side, he's coming off a win against Charles Rosa. He's beaten Kai Kamaka III. And yes, the Jordan Griffin loss in his UFC debut, not great. But then he lost the decision to Danny Chavez as well. He won his fight on the Contender Series to get in. He's a bit older, 16-8, not as clean of a record. But I believe that he's minus 205 for a reason. I'm willing to take a risk. Last week I had 1 parlay piece that came in plus money or right around to it. So if I can do that every week and maybe hit 1 or 2 here or there, I like it. That's why I'm going Thiago Moises, TJ Brown. I really do think both those guys win, but I didn't want to risk adding that third leg to Tsarukyan and Rakhmonov. So let's split it up.
By the way, so do you remember that fighter? I think his name was Azamat something, the guy who had all those fights, all his wins taken off.
From the Ukraine, that guy.
Yeah. So I was seeing where Shaylin is kind of the opposite, the reverse Azamat, because he just had a bunch of wins added to his record. Just literally, the last time he fought, I think I saw the clip going around it. He was 19-10.
Really?
And now he's 37-10. So.
Well, I bet the house on that parlay. I'm just kidding. It's not a lot, but I really do believe in TJ Brown. I did not know that. That's great.
Well, I think that does, in some ways, that's great, and I'm glad that he's getting his record, corrected. But in some ways, doesn't that kind of speak to what you're saying, where it's how hard it was for them to verify that these fights even happened?
Yeah, something's off,
So, I'm not saying that that's the reason that it's saying it, but it does kind of feel I love that the UFC is trying to break so much ground in China and, the road to UFC stuff. I think it's great and really just all of Asia as a whole. But so far, I think it's going to be a slow build because you just see a lot of the talent there just needs time to develop. There's just not as much talent there as there is in the rest of the world. So, a lot of these guys that come and girls that come in with great records, great finishing capability, streaks, and all that, they just don't seem to fare as well against the rest of the world. And it's just going to take time. I mean, yes, you have the outliers, the Wei Li Zhangs, the Li Jingliangs, and stuff like that. Yeah. Song Yadong, but it's just it's going to take time. But there is reasonable to be pessimistic about someone like Shaylin who just is unproven. But I didn't just want to throw that in there. I thought it was interesting. 37-10.
I didn't know that.
It's a lot of fights.
Yeah, shit ton. He's only 28, so.
Yeah, and for Thiago Moises, Dom, this is a big fight for him. He's 4-4 in the UFC.
Oh, it's big. Very.
But he has fought just a lot of good, solid dudes. So
yeah.
He's really in need of a bounce back here. And Christos Thiago's a bit. I feel like his losses have been against very good fighters, but I don't feel like he's really beaten.
That was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. So, I like it. I like everything we have on here. Let us know what picks you're picking, what bets you're placing, what sports books you're using this weekend. These, of course, all odds and all of our picks are being placed with the I almost messed that up, DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yep.
So shout out to them.
Yes.
And Dominic, that's pretty much going to wrap us up here, but we do have one more thing before we go, and that is closing statements. Closing statements, the part of the show where me and Dominic can talk about anything and everything, MMA related, not MMA related, as a way to send us off into the weekend.
Nothing. You drained me so much with my laugh in that fucking bet slip back there that anything that was in my head, I had a hard time talking about the rest of my bets after that. So.
It was tough to stay.
I kept looking
focused.
at you. You know those moments in school. I guess this is kind of a closing statement. When your buddy would do something funny and you'd laugh and laugh and laugh, but then you'd be it would keep coming back out, you would keep giggling a little bit, you would think about it 5 minutes later and start laughing. I kept trying to fight that during that bet slip because I would look at Noah and picture what he had just done, and you probably see me during that segment smiling when Noah was talking. I was trying to hold back, not bursting out laughing.
I wasn't looking at you. I refused to look at you while I talked.
That's what it reminded me. Some little dumb joke back in 4th grade. 10 minutes go by and I'm I start laughing again and get in trouble. Flip my card to yellow. That's what that was.
Yeah, flip the card to yellow. Yeah. Something I thought of when you were saying that. I don't know why I thought of this. I thought of it because it happened to you.
Oh boy.
So when we were in high school, I'm going to tell this story from my perspective.
Okay.
So.
Ooh, I'm excited for this.
So me and Dominic, we were pals in high school. Maybe not to the extent that we are now, but we've always been, friends. We've always been
as the years went on.
I would say Dom was always that guy, basically from 5th, 6th grade till junior, senior year of high school, where we actually started to get closer. Then went to college, of course, became roommates and podcast co-hosts, all that. During that time frame, Dom was always that guy that's I wish I hung out with him more. That was always my feelings on Dom. So it was he was always that guy that's God, I really like Dom, but don't hang out with him. He doesn't invite me over for WrestleMania, He's just whatever, dude.
Biggest regret of my childhood.
But in all seriousness, we were in, I think it was sophomore year, advanced English. Yeah, that's right.
We're smart.
The teacher, Dominic's mother-in-law. So,
yeah, right.
Just a little setup here. So she was unfortunately out. I forget why. I don't know why. She wasn't there. So we had a sub. And the way that I don't know if I should mention names, but the way that your mother-in-law ran her classroom was, once you got your work done, you could have your phone out, you could be talking, whatever. She kind of just let us do what we wanted to do. And, it was great. It was just a very laid-back class. We're the advanced kids.'re the smart ones. We don't need to do all this stupid schoolwork. You know what I mean? No.
Right.
So I'm sitting there I think I'm still doing work or something. Because, again, we'd get all these books to read, and I wouldn't read them. And, it was a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm doing some sort of quiz or something, and we had a substitute named Miss Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Miss Liberty didn't have her too many times, but She was this very awkward older woman who just, she looked like, she probably had a few cats, in her house. And
Yeah.
She wasn't a mean lady. She just,
a little
she
strict.
I think she was a little, I think she wasn't very confident in her. So she comes in there and we're all just being ourselves, laid back on our phones, talking. But we got our work done. Now I'm still working on something, and probably a couple other kids are. So I'm sitting a couple desks behind Dominic, and Dominic's talking to whoever, and he has his phone out, and he's just, talking on his phone. This Liberty, out of everything going on, walks up to Dom and just grabs the phone out of his
Swooped
hand.
it right out. Didn't say nothing. Whoop.
Swiper, no swiping.
Yes.
What Dominic should have said in that moment. But he didn't. So she just takes his phone, and I remember I just see Dominic, like, he looks at his hand, and he just is like,
yeah.
And that was it.
It was gone.
She didn't take. It was gone. You never got that phone back.
No words were said.
And everybody just kept going.
Yeah.
Talking on their phone, but Dominic just had his phone taken away.
Yeah.
Now,
everyone else had their shit out.
What am I missing from that? Is there anything I'm missing about what happened afterwards? How did you get your phone back?
I don't think so. I think I probably just went up after. It might have been. She might have been the one to be like, "Come back at the end of the day, not after class." I can't remember.
Oh my gosh!
I can't remember. I don't remember a lot of things from high school, but I do remember getting my phone taken by that substitute. Wonder if I did. I feel like I got it back at the end of the day.
Nice correction there. You're like that substitute.
I don't think I got it back to the end of the day, if I remember correctly.
That's crazy.
And didn't it feel like everyone else around me was also on their phone?
Yes. Well, you were talking to, like, I swear it was Tommy or Nick or
Nick
JP,
was in there with us, yeah.
And I swear you both were on. And then she just, boop,
yeah.
See ya.
And I was a good kid.
And Dominic was literally like the last kid that you would. I can confirm he was like the last guy who would get in trouble for something like that.
Yeah. Man,
like,
now you got me on a tangent. I want to say one more thing. 6th grade. Shout out Mr. Powers. GOAT, by the way. One of the best.
Mr.
One of the best to ever do it.
I know the story, though.
Yeah. Were you in there?
No, but I know the story.
So, we had a buddy. We call him Jordo. And I don't know what was going on during the social studies class. It was really quiet. People were just working on homework or something.
Well,
probably one of those
class,
maps.
well, his class, yes, there was a lot of maps. It was a geography-heavy social studies class. So, like, it was always quiet because you're always just like, God, where the fuck is Ecuador? You're like,
you're like, is this New Hampshire a state? I don't remember. And he fucking threw an eraser. You know the eraser you could pop. They pop right off the little rubber ones. And he threw it at me, doinked it right off my head in the middle of class. He doesn't see it. The teacher doesn't see it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to fire it right back at you, Jordan. I pick it up, throw it right back across the room at Jordan. All the teacher goes, he goes, Mr. Salih, see me after class. I'm like, oh, fuck. This is like the first time I had ever gotten in trouble. It was 6th grade. I'm scared to death. Didn't know what was going to happen. And then it happened. I got in trouble. I got a Thursday school. No, I don't know if you ever had a Thursday school, but that was the punishment for, I guess I justified it as I was throwing the eraser back to Jordan, but he saw it as more of an aggressive throw. So there's the tangent of me getting in trouble, I guess.
I didn't disappear, did I?
No, you were here.
Well,
you looked a little confused at one point.
You cut out for like 5 seconds, so I missed like all of that. No. But you literally cut out. You were going. Mr. Power said, "Mr. Salih," and then it just cut out.
Oh.
It started doing the scrolls on both our faces. I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, Dom's gonna have to redo that story. And then he came back, and you're like, "I don't know if you ever had a Thursday school, Noah, but." And I was,
but yeah.
There was one. I think I've only had one detention ever. Because I also was a pretty well-mannered.
Yeah, good kids.
Outside of freshman year of high school, I guess.
We won't talk about it.
So that was a messy year for me, but I still didn't get in trouble very much.
True.
But this is the year that this happens.
Okay.
So I was in it was freshman year math, which would have been pre-algebra. I think it was pre-algebra.
Yeah.
And the teacher was Mr. Parker. So I had him. Now, every day in this class, there was me and one of our mutual friends from high school. I'm just going to call him Josh.
Oh, man. Shout out to Josh.
Josh sat in front of me. I sat in the front, and Josh sat right behind me. And every day we'd come in there. It was like 6th or 7th period. Last
end
period
of the day, yeah.
And we would just sleep. We would sleep for the whole period. And Mr. Parker never once woke us up. Nothing like that. Now, next to me, in the row next to me, the very first seat was filled by a man, a boy at the time, a boy man.
A boy man.
Who I will refer to as Larison.
Yes. Shout out also another legend.
Yeah. So Larison in the seat, right? So the reason I wake up is because Mr. Parker is handing us homework for me to pass back behind me. So I had to wake up Josh. I'm like,
yeah,
homework.
Yeah.
So then we have time to work on it before the end of the day. So me and Larison, we always used to kind of fuck with each other going back to even like 8th grade. And he was just one of those guys that like always fucked with people.
Yes.
So he did something to me. And I can't remember what it was. But I thought he like pinched the shit out of me or something. Or like flicked me with a rubber band or something. Something that just got me like, fuck, man. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like while I was sleeping, like just fucking got me. So then he goes and uses the bathroom. And now in all my wisdom, there was so many things I could have done to fuck with him, get him back, But I chose a way that would just incriminate me completely. I took his homework and I just started scribbling on it, like over the whole thing.
Oh no.
I was writing like, fuck you. I was writing like girls with big old boobies, like stick figure women with big old boobies on it.
Yeah.
And I might have even said like Noah's your daddy or something on there. Like just literally incriminated myself.
Yeah.
So he comes back, sits down, he's like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, what is this? He's like, I can't turn this in now. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch. I'm like, you get what you deserve. So in the commotion, Mr. Parker starts walking over. I'm like, Larison, put it away.
Yeah.
And Larison's not doing it because, of course, he's mad. Of course, as he would. So it's just sitting there, and Mr. Parker comes over and he goes, picks up the paper. And goes, who wrote on Mr. Larison's paper?
Did your heart sink?
It did, and I just sunk into my chair. I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, I'm not going down for this.
Yeah. You're like Ralphie when they stuck the fucking
I'm like,
plug on the pole.
Technically, nobody saw me draw on this. Like, it might say Noah's your daddy, but
doesn't mean you wrote it.
It could be anybody.
Yeah.
And he says, all right, I'm going to ask again. Who did this, or else both of these, he's like, or else both rows here are all going to spend detention with me tomorrow.
Oh.
Which... maybe an abuse of power, maybe.
That's a way to make someone.
But it might have been bluffing as well.
Yeah.
But it worked because then I went, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it, Mr. Parker.
Look at you though, standing up for the team.
Because I didn't want to screw over everybody else. Because nobody was about to snitch.
Right.
He said, be here. I forget what time tomorrow. That was it. So then I go in the next morning. I think I told my dad I needed to go to the computer lab.
Oh, so you went in before school. Gotcha.
And I told my dad, I made up some lie. I had to be at school for something.
Yeah.
So he drops me off, and I'm in there. It's literally just me and him, Mr. And then when it was over, he came over to me and he goes, because by the way, I slept
during the detention.
Yes, which, he had become accustomed to that by that point. And I'll never forget this quote. He came over and he said, Noah, stuff like this and actions like these are the reasons why you're never going to have a job better than Burger King. Anyways.
There it is.
I'm Noah Baker. That's Dominic Salee. We're the Below Average Joes, and we'll see you on Monday.